Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Go. As everyone knows, a lot of things are moving and shaking in the world, and I'm sure in your own personal lives. And isn't that exciting? So, we are going to touch on some of the things that we are talking about, playing with, being curious about. And to open up, I'm going to give a fun little story that just happened that's super relevant for all of the viewers and for pretty much anyone and everyone. So, as you might have remembered, if you've seen the first couple episodes, I used to have a blank canvas. Good job. Um, a blank canvas behind me, and it was for many reasons because I have an intent to paint a painting of my own, and but it was such a good visual of clean slate, blank canvas. That's where we're at, new foundations. But a couple days ago, I this painting behind me was hanging on another wall in this room, and I thought, you know what? It's time to bring some color in. We're in creation time. I think we've made it clear that we're going from the blank canvas. Let's start painting. Let's start creating. So I'm taking the blank canvas off the wall while I'm simultaneously trying to hang this one. Come on. Is there a way to turn that off? Like seriously. Anyway,
I think Apple just wants you to do it. And it's
I did.
fun.
It is because I've tried to change it before and I have not been able to get it off. So anyway, I try and keep my thumbs down, um, or my thumbs not on the screen. So anyway, I'm taking down the blank canvas while trying to hang this. Now, it started to get all swirly with the two of them, and one part of me is saying, "Hey, you're gonna mess it up. Don't do it." And then another part of me is saying, "No, I got it. I got it." Well, come to find out, I did. Something flipped, slipped, fell, and it ripped the canvas. And I don't know if anyone knows, but those things are expensive. They're almost like $100 for one of that size. So it's just a rip. It's about that big. And instead of getting frustrated and mad, I started laughing. And I was like, you know what? Let her rip. So I love that the intel and the information most times, not always, is coming to me pretty quickly. Like, listen, who says that bad? And I thought, right, I'm still gonna paint over it. It'll still be cool. I'll incorporate it in. So I go to hang it on the wall that this one was on, and next to right against that wall, there's a plant, and there's this cool little spoon that I've purchased recently, and it says, "Let love crack you open." And this is the stuff that happens in life that I chuckle at, and then I say, "Thank you," because did I not just crack open that canvas and access point, let her rip, pure creation? So that is my fun story to start with. And as Renae and I will bounce off of, it opens up so many other conversations from that simple little act of ripping my canvas and owning if you listen to last episode, it's the and both, the we're in it, the let her rip, and oh shoot, I just ripped my canvas, and being okay in both of those energy fields. Okay, I'm going to toss it to you, Renae.
I love that whole aspect. And even when Tracy was telling me the story of the rip canvas, I was like, oh my God, isn't that such a great analogy for what's going on right now? Right? We're in this field, right? We're in this energetic field in our lives, or we're just, if you don't even want to look at it from an energy point, we're in our lives and we're playing out the same things that, I don't know, our ancestors, everything and everybody's been doing forever. And things are changing, things are definitely shifting. So the visual I get is this beautiful life that we're in with this little crack in it, right? This little slit in it. And we're being invited to go into that unknown, going right through that little crack, right through that little slit in the canvas, go into the unknown and experience what we're really here to experience. And it's, taking ownership. It's owning our life. What do we want to create in our life? Stop playing the old safe version. We're not really in safety. We're in a false sense of safety. So it's a matter of now, are we going to move into the unknown and start to be more comfortable in it? Because the truth of the matter is, That's where we're moving. We have to get into a field of being comfortable with the unknown. Everything is changing, everything is shifting. We are changing and shifting. What is it? We change even our personality every 7 years. Like everything in our body is changing like every 7 years. So why would we still be doing the same things that we've always done? Because it's comfort, because it's something we know. Well, we're now moving into the unknown, and we have to start to take ownership of everything that we are creating in our life. So if there's something in our life, in the world, and that's, yeah, I'm going to open it up even more. There's something in the world that you don't like that's happening. What are you doing about that? And I don't mean, we talked about this in the last session as well. And I don't mean, what are you going, you're fighting against it? Are you doing whatever? Because the fights are resistance, right? No, I mean, and they mean, what are you doing about it? You have to create your life. Get focused on what it is that you want your life to be. So again, what Tracy said last time, what are you choosing? Are you choosing to buy into all of this strife and all of the stuff that's going on? Or are you going to start to create the world you want? And it's not buying into this, not putting energy to that. Because the more energy we put into those things, the more you're talking about it, the more you're thinking about it, the more you're posting about it, whatever it is, the more it's going to happen. You're creating a whole consciousness. So you've gone from, this, having this beautiful path of, okay, this is what I'm doing, to now, oh my God, somebody said this is happening, or this is what I'm reading about happening. I've always thought that the news and everything is whatever, the creator's way of saying, here's everything that needs love. Because what else would be the purpose? The other purpose, what I'm hearing them say, is the other purpose would be, you're going to be pulled out of your field of joy and peace and happiness and all that stuff. Or are you going to stand strong in who and what you are and move forward in that? And they're actually saying, Tracy, go Tracy. So you must have things to say about that. So go.
Well, and I think we just spoke about this before we started film taping here, is that these energy fields are more expansive than ever. They are potentially, we're able to access fields that have not been accessible before, and really look at things in your own life. It's a big thing for people to talk about what's happening on the world stage and what the media is telling you, but then maybe kind of self-reflect on, ooh, what just happened in my day or my week, and how am I perhaps feeding into the old narrative and getting into the trying to control what's happening in your own world, because everything is changing and it can be very destabilizing. And Renae and I were talk about encompassing these energy fields and being mindful of where you are and kind of reaffirming your position and being aware if you go backwards. And we were speaking to um not being like intentionally strengthening yourself to hold a field of trust and resilience. And when I say resilience, I don't mean, oh my gosh, we got to be so strong out of fear. I mean resilience of, no, I know who I am. I know where I'm at and going and desiring to hold, and the resilience of holding that aspect. And then if be aware of where you get shaken and where you get pulled out, and then try approaching it with curiosity. And I think I said I am a master lately of coming in with mockery and celebration, because when someone comes into awareness of stuff that, we probably most of you have been saying for a while, I'm kind of like, oh, are we talking about that now? Oh, are we making that a thing? We're realizing where, so there is a little bit of fun and mockery, but also the celebration of not of like, I told you so, and it's about time you realize. More fun and awesome. Oh my gosh. Like we have strengthened the collective to be resilient, to stand in truth. And there's so many truths that are being revealed and will be revealed. And a lot of us are going to get caught with our pants down of, oh my gosh, I totally thought something completely different. Who knew that that's not at all what the reality is, or, the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. I really thought that the banking system worked this way. Holy crap, it totally does not. Not sure I brought that example up, trying to keep a very neutral example, which I know there's truth behind. So again, let it be frustrating, but also let it be a celebration. And I just, every day, if I get a big wobble, I'm like, all right, that's an exercise of strengthening trust and resilience.
Well, and Tracy, you had said this before we had started, is, choose your passion. Like what is your passion? And stay focused on that, because what seems to be happening in the world is, and they're saying what's really happened in overall for many, many centuries, is people got stuck in the dichotomy of, this is what I do. This is how things are. This is, what the way it works. Well, if we even go back to, let's say, our grandmothers, right? And you start to think about what their world was, because I'm sure you heard stories or whatever, right? And now you look at, our parents, and you look at us, and then you look at, if you've got children, look at the children. Everyone is having a totally different experience, each group of people. I mean, individually we are as well, but as a collective, where everybody's having a totally different experience. Well, look at how different your grandparents' life was. Pricing, everything, like just life in general. It was much simpler, is how the healers are saying it. Okay. And I'm sure they didn't think it was simple at that particular point, right? But if you look at it from there, you look at now, because, when I talk to even my parents, like, my God, you bought that house for that. And now look at what the pricing is. But look at the change that has been made, and look at how wonderful it is. And all of the powers that be are saying, don't look at it from a judgment point of view. Well, yeah, things are so much cheaper and they got paid less too, right? So it's that point of, start to look at the way things ran back then and the way they're running now. It's changing, exactly what Tracy said. Everything is being broken down, and it's not even breaking down into a field of, oh, this is a horrible thing. It's breaking down to a point of, like, what they're showing is like something falling apart. Like, picture the circle. Okay, now a piece is coming off of that, but it's changed into a whole new something. So it's not falling apart and it's gone. It's changing into a new way of being. So all of the old programs, and I'm trying to keep this, whatever, bigger, but I've got to bring it, because just because you had said something with business, I'm like, oh, that's a perfect example. So from a business perspective, right? We've always run things the same way. This is the way it always runs. This is the way it should be. Well, no, we have to start to look and say, if you own a business or whatever, and Tracy, you can probably speak to this as well. If you own a business, things aren't the same way. Everything is changed and changing. So be open to being changed and say, okay, well, this is the way it always ran, but there's a little bit of friction here, a little bit of something here. It's not running smooth. Yeah, because we're not in the same energy. Can you speak to that? Because you're so great at giving examples, and because I'm using a business part, can you give an example to that, or have you been experiencing that in your own field? Because I know you own businesses.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, from everything to banking, for example, I own restaurants. So we need ones, fives, quarters, and we are down to, out of, I think, 6 locations of the bank that I use, one of them has cash anymore. One. So we are struggling to actually keep cash in the building to make change for people. So that's one example of a huge change that has been made. And, one could beg, why? Well, why aren't the banks keeping cash anymore? And what's next? Like, when are they not going to have cash? So to yeah, and it's frustrating, especially, and I won't go into all the details, but now we don't have enough cash on hand to give, servers their tips at the end of the night. So then it has to go through their paycheck. And of course, they don't like that. And, it's though it's just one example of changes that are happening. We are so reliant on technology, and it is very difficult in the business world to not switch all your things to banking or to technology, meaning your payroll, your you know, how you integrate all your sales into your reporting to the IRS. You know, you got to pay your property taxes and your quarterly sales tax and or monthly sales tax. So, and then how often our internet goes down, how often the it doesn't sync. The one POS system, your operating system doesn't sync to your accounting system. And to hold the line of, I'm kind of going, yeah, of course. Where everyone else is obviously very frustrated, especially if your whole system tanks and your customers can't cash out. And you know, well, do you have cash? No, who has cash nowadays? Well, these are the things that, you know, we love technology and relying on it. But the other side of that is, well, what are the potential consequences? You know what so I think but there's so many things that are, if you don't know that business has been changing profoundly, I'm here to tell you it has. And then lovingly, the common consumer has no idea of what's going behind the scenes. There's new regulations, there's new liability aspects, so I'm going to use the restaurant. We have to start doing things differently because we are outright mandated to do them differently. No choice, regulated, which means what we can do in-house for the customer experience is going to change. So it's such a great example, the restaurant industry, of all the complexities, all the dynamics, the customer perspective, to the employee perspective, to the manager perspective, to the accounting perspective, to the liability perspective. It is quite a web, and that's just talking about a restaurant. Now, applicable to literally every single thing in our lives, the education system, the medical system, the relationships in your own home, because as all the metrics and dynamics change in the reality around us, so does your relationship with your spouse, with your child. I am so didn't mean to like open up but fascinating, frustrating, all of the words. So yeah, I don't even know what our base point
Well,
was.
but bottom line is you've had to change everything in your business, the way things are running, and it just goes with the flow. So I'm sure even that, okay, that whole point. But are you recognizing or noticing that, okay, I've got to change the way we've done things from a, I don't know, like how I want to say this, like from a behind the scenes, like, okay, this is the way we've always done things. Like take out the all the things that have changed from the regulations and all that, just business in general. Have you had, or you must have had to have changed the way even you thought business ran? Does that make sense? Am I making sense from that point?
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring in another thing we spoke about off air is simplicity. I see this as a necessary for many reasons or unavoidable, and not in a bad way, in a great way, of moving back into a state and energy of simplicity. We collectively have spiraled this reality out into a web. I just see as a web of mass confusion and entrapment, and not to sound negative, but entrapment um, on all the in all the categories on all the levels. So I think that this is an escalation that will demand simplicity. And I can see how the restaurants are going to change. I know, I would say within 2 years, especially in Florida, because we all have different state regulations, the restaurant will not be operating the same. And I won't go into the specifics, but I can see, and it's a inevitable. It is going to happen. It's just how challenging and painful we in my business and everyone else is going to make it till we get to that inevitability of a new energy, a simplistic way, a more sovereign way. It'll bring sovereignty to everyone involved, whether they don't see it now. So it's so it's so fascinating how it's so complex and chaotic, en route to simplicity and freedom. Like, how is that? Explain that one to me. Well, why does it have to get so crazy? Well, because we're en route to simplicity and freedom.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's
the chaos, it accentuates. So it's so unsustainable, it no longer is.
well, and it's a new awareness. We're looking from a point of it's that whole new awareness that is coming around. And why does it have to get so crazy? Because we're not paying attention. Because the saying is, if you really are paying attention, if you're really living your passion and your joy and saying, okay, you know what, I know that that's the way the world works, I have to pay for this, I have to pay for this. But if you're in your passion, you're standing strong, and you really get laser focused in on, this is the path, this is the creation that I want my life to be. And I know it sounds all like whatever, fluffy or whatever, but truthfully, remember, we are creating every single aspect of our life. The shit that we don't like and the great stuff that we do like. We have to take ownership of everything that we are seeing, everything we're doing. Because if you're seeing something in the world, they're saying to you, they being your bodies, the healers, whatever, are saying to you, this is within you. This is something in you. If it's triggering you, okay, why is this triggering you? Because why? You're not being aware. You're not opening up that little field and saying, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to see something differently. You're still stuck in the old way of trying to do things. Well, this is the way it's always been, and this has worked for me. Does it? Is it really working for you now? It's like Tracy always says, how's that working for you? Right? Because if you're having all of this strife or this whatever, you're getting frustrated, well, then stop, take a breath, stand back, say, okay, well, wait a minute, what is this in me? Because the more we wake up, and we're always moving, this energy is always moving, always pushing us outside of our comfort zones in all areas of our life. It's not just one area. Okay, you might be better at recognizing a particular area of your life and saying, okay, oh, I'm better at relationships because I can recognize when there's imbalance here or whatever, or this relationship isn't going to work. And you maybe not so much in business or in banking or in some other area of your life. This energy is all about creating a full circle energetic field of coherence, of just everything flowing naturally. And because we're always flowing, it's that aspect of, where are you going to stand? Are you going to focus in on your passion? Are you going to focus in on what makes me happy and stay strong in there? Because every time something comes into your field and it's like, oh my God, this is such a pain in the ass or whatever it is, that's just an awareness. It's because, look at, I've grown, I've opened up a new field of awareness. Do I want to walk that path, or do I want to go back into a focused energy of, this is the way it should be? And why is this so difficult? Don't go into why is this so difficult? Like, okay, exactly what Tracy does. All right. Okay, this is fun. Let's see how this works out. Like, sort of go with that flow and ask your body, or ask the field, ask the healer. If you work with somebody in particular, Archangel Michael, whatever, just say, okay, show me something, easier or different, or show me what's stuck, show me what I'm fighting, what I'm resisting. That stuff, but be aware and own when you see it. Not, oh, that's their fault. Oh, that's so and so's fault because I didn't do this, or because life is so crazy, it's their fault. No, take ownership. It's your fault. You creating it. You are creating every single aspect, and own it. And if you don't like the way it is, they're saying, so change it. Focus in on what you want to focus on, what your life is. And they said, guaranteed, you will go through that split in the canvas. You will go into that new field, the new focus, and people can be saying things. Oh my God, did you see this? And you'll be like, no, that because it's not your reality. We have to shift as a consciousness and as an individual first to make the changes in the consciousness. The only way you're going to change the world is to change you. So let's do that. Focus there. Get really strong. Stand in your stance. You don't have to tell people about it. Stay focused. You're changing and shifting your field. That will automatically shift. That will automatically start to make the changes in everybody around you. It can't not. The energy is energy, and it goes in. And either those people will move outside of your life, or they'll stay strong and then that continues to grow and expand. What do you got from that?
So here's another interesting little, I've noticed, I have a couple businesses, and lately I was telling Renee, I cannot stop cleansing and purging. And I think that I've organized something and I go back in. So, two places now, I'll use the manager's office at one of my restaurants. I spent 2 days literally throwing away half the stuff in the room, getting rid of two pieces of furniture. My husband helped me literally on hands and knees, scrubbing corners. And then I went upstairs to the satellite office upstairs and did the same thing. So, and my daughter was asking me, she's like, Mom, what in the world? And I said, and the things that come out of my mouth, but watch and let yourself free speak. I said, I have to just clean out the wombs of our businesses. And she's like, what? And I was like, I don't know why I said it that way. I go, the heart and the soul, like, the office, because I just done it down at our other location too. Like I could not move all the energy, throw everything away, reorganize. And here's my thing. If you're called to do stuff like this, do it because it is so powerful and on time. Here's my disclosure. You kick up the dust. So let's just say that I went on in a day and no one even knew what I was doing, which obviously it was very visual to everyone. Like everyone was making comments about, and of course, like, oh my God, if she's cleaning, we better clean something, right? But the and I say this in a great way, the dust that gets kicked up and the dismantling in the field, it is a little chaotic if you want to use those words, but allow it like, whoo, and watch for what you are doing because I had such an intention of clearing out the heart and soul per se of the foundation of that business. And wow, the earth, I see it, the tremblings out were very real and very palpable all week. Like, whoa, powerful stuff. So there's just a real-time example. An urge to clean, like I couldn't not do it. It was such a compelling thing. I got to get in there. I'm doing this. And then it's so cool, but a bit of a challenging week for me because it unraveled a lot of things. It disconnected a lot of the energetics in the business that had to be unplugged, literally shaken out, thrown away, reorganized, replaced. And I'm not saying that I wasn't throwing a fit many times this week. And then thank God I have people like Renee or someone, I'll, catch myself. What are you doing? Where are you at? Where's your energy? You're way out there. Come on back in. So again, all the words, and it's, if you can get to a place, even if you have an hour a day or two of, if you can come back around and be like, oh, awesome. Awesome.
That's so good. And I think that also lends to the fact of people, because I'm sure, you got that, like you said, like, what are you doing? What's happening there? That piece of you're always going to get people in your life. And this is just a generalized thing that are going to be questioning, doubting, not agreeing with you. That's where it's so important to stand strong on what you stand for. And you're not going to agree. Don't try and change their mind. They're not changing yours. So stop trying to change theirs. You're not going to see things the same way. And Tracy, you've said this a million times. People will have the same experience, but come out with something so completely different that if they described it to you, you'd be like, they possibly couldn't have been at the same place at the same time and having that experience. So it's a thing of like recognizing and realize we are all here for a specific purpose. Okay. In your life, everybody's here to experience something different. And if they don't agree with you, that's okay. Just like end that, I don't know, nicely, friendly, whatever it is. Like, okay, we're not going to see things the same way. I can respect, and even if you don't respect it, then don't say it. But I can respect where you're coming from. But this is my way of doing it. So we're just going to agree to disagree and end it. Don't carry that on. And when you walk away from that, Don't sit there in your own field and be like, oh my God, how can they not do this? I don't even understand. Like going on it, because what you're doing is you're tying into that old energetic field. When you really say, okay, we're going to agree to disagree, let's have the conversation another time, or whatever way you say that, really honestly let it go from your field. Really, it's like, okay, I release this. And just in saying that, what you're doing is you're releasing that connected energy. Because if you walk away, now notice what as I walk away, picture a string between this person and this person, right? You walk away and you're still, oh my God, what's wrong with them? Why can't they? You're carrying that field. That string is tying both together. Now this person goes on and they're having whatever conversation with other people of everything that they agree with, that you totally did not agree with. Okay, what is happening? They're pulling you back because you're still connected, right? So they're pulling you. So now instead of you standing strong and knowing what you are, they're going to start to pull you back, pull you down. When you disconnect and you really release that, you let it go. But when you start to complain about it to somebody else, you've now reconnected that line into them. So they're all, so it's that, always picture that like push pull. Are you going to stand strong in who and what you are, or are you going to be pulled into all the other crap that doesn't really make any sense at all to you? So why are you being pulled in? It doesn't make it right. Let it go. Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I will say the more like the stuff that's happening on a global stage and political stage, and they actually do affect my life. I find it fascinating on how the people that get so emotionally invested, and I'm like, how does that affect you?
Mm-hmm.
And not to sound shitty about it, but really like how, explain to me how any of this, whatever. There's so many topics. I'm not speaking to one because there's
Right.
so many hot topics right now. Um, that stuff does affect because I own so many businesses. Foundationally, it affects my world. And I'm like, okay, I'll deal with it. Like I'm not. So you can really start to become a master at that. And then what I discovered for me, now it goes into like into my businesses and my relationships. A little more tricky because, you know, if someone disagrees with me on something, I'm very okay. Like I don't even have any interest in engaging. You do you, think what you want, you know. But if you can be aware of it and you start to let go of the things that I'm going to say really don't matter, but they matter, you just really don't have control on you have better control of holding a field of coherence than you have of standing on the street with the sign. You understand what I'm saying. So if you can kind of not divest your energy in that, what starts presenting is stuff what I would argue really matter. Who are you and how are you showing up? Who are you and how are you showing up in your everyday relationships? That's the juice in life. That's where you can really make significant changes of what your reality looks like. Because let's be honest, the global stage is going to take a bit to adjust, right? We got to get collective buy-in, we got to get collective resonance and coherence. Your world, right? You know, when you're in your house and walk out your door, in my opinion, and that's all we all have is our opinion, our perspective, that's where I put all my focus and attention, all my focus and energy, because that is my day to day. Those are my relationships that are most important, not what they're saying on the news, not what the next legislation is going to bring. And that's, again, that's just my opinion. But the more, I guess I'm going to sum it up, the more you can let go of the other things, the real important things present themselves to you. Oh, okay, great. You've got that. Now look at this. And then you're like, oh, shoot. Okay. I wasn't even paying attention to that. And I'll just, simplistic things like how we run our businesses, what we do. Now I'm like, I'm not really going to focus on that big thing. Oh my gosh, look at what we're doing. That makes no sense to me anymore. Why would we be doing that? So it just starts to get really cool and really fascinating and really profound and really effective. And not that everything that you're doing and it's all good and we all are players to put our strengths and energies in the fields that probably need us most. But yeah, there's so many levels that we can just try and hold that neutrality. And if you slip up, because I'm going to say I do it, I spiral out and I'm like, whoa, you were so far away from neutrality in that one. Like you need to, like, you're way out there. Reel it in, girl, and let go. So it's okay. If, it's all okay. But the more aware you are and you take some responsibility, awesome. The next time you're going to be that much more aware, that much quicker, and jump back into that stability, strength, neutrality. And I'm telling you, it's so freaking awesome. Like things that used to ruffle you will not ruffle you. You'll just be like, oh, like you said, Renee. Oh, okay.
And what I love about that, Tracy, is you're right. Like other things do affect you. Like, there's things that, out there in the world that affect us and we have to abide by. But the more focused, exactly what you said, and I think I'm just saying this a whole nother way, is the more focused you are on the things that bring you joy and happiness, and that the more aware you are, the more that those things that other people are saying, well, this is what you have to do, the more that that becomes completely irrelevant. The more it's like, oh, okay, not a big deal, because you're not so ground into, I don't want to change, I'm not going to do this like this, and you're not grounded into that energetic field. What you've done is you've released it, because as you were saying some of the stuff, you could see like the foundation. They were showing me this foundation of things, all these roots down in there, and the roots connected to each other. Like, okay, you can't pull this up because it's not gonna release. But in having these discussions, we're like, okay, all right, that's what it is. Those roots detangle. So it's these individual things, which gives you notice, here, there's no space there, right? So now they detangle. Now you've got, at least, even if it's a tiny, you get this tiny little space. That's the space of true awareness. It's a space that you're now allowing something good to happen in your life. And the more good and the more stuff that you're focusing on that, the more these other things that you've seen as something horrible, or, oh my God, I can't deal with this person at work or whatever, the more that all of a sudden is okay. Your whole field of the way you see things changes, because you're more focused on the happiness and the joy. You're standing strong in who and what you are. And all of this stuff, exactly what you said, Tracy, is irrelevant. It's like, okay. And it's easier to do, because something that you would have seen as, oh my God, I'm not going to have the money for this, I'm not going to do this, I can't do this, and that's what they're calling me for to do. Now you're focused on this happiness. Now you see this and it comes through and you're like, oh, okay, because you've got the money for it. You've got the whatever, because it's flowing, everything's flowing. You're not in this argument or this destruction or whatever you want to call it. So we're just sort of inviting you into this field of start to look at things a little differently, start to be open for all the stuff that you see or that you're focused on as the wrong in your life or in the world, whatever it is. Start to redirect yourself. Like, just disconnect, and you just have the topic disconnect, whatever, cancel, replace with the opposite, whatever you want to say, and sort of refocus on the things that you like or that you love in your life, or that make you joy, or that bring you joy, or that make you happy. Start to focus on that, and the more you're doing that, the more all the other stuff isn't going to matter. And if you have to do it, it's going to be okay, because it's going to be happiness, it's going to be joy, it's going to be like, all right, yeah, we'll do that, but I'm focusing more here. Does that make sense? I mean, it's basically what you just said, Tracy, another way of saying it for whatever reason, but that's what they're saying. Like, again, we all respond, and again, a lot of this is my opinion. I do channel in, and I'm saying a lot of the stuff that the powers that be are saying, but they're saying, remember, you and your world can only change by what you are willing to change and do. The world is a reflection. Your world is a reflection of you. Okay, so everything you want to see what's happening inside of you, or look out here. That's what's going on inside. So come inside first. Start to work on that stuff, and you'll see your world shift and change, which then globally we see, which is awesome. So that's my 2 cents for the day. Got anything else, Trace?
I just want to re-say it because I think it's so good, and I saw it all over again when you were speaking. We had referenced the blueprints, and I've seen this way for years, to be honest with you, that there's so many layers of the blueprints. And if you know let's just say you're building your dream home, so that's the architectural plan. You know that's where it is, but there's all these overlays of blueprints. And we spoke about it another episode, how especially we're more so doing a renovation right now. So we don't have clear land. We have a structure and we're kind of systematically going in. But and some of you got get in a room and it's full of mold and it's, and it's like, oh shoot, do we totally demo it? Or do we systematically work through and bring it a new life? But keep your eye on that final blueprint. And this is so cool because we're bringing on the divine blueprint in our bodies. We're bringing on the new architecture, light architecture for pretty much all our creations. I've been working on mine in my businesses, the light architecture of what's coming. So I just love that analogy. And I have to remind myself of it because there's multiple layers of plans going on at the same time. So know that it's not just, we're not working on one set of blueprints. There's a whole stack of them. So keep your mind on that, the passion, the joy, the simplicity, the freedom, the completion, those, even if you're on one of the, oh God, I hate the electrical stuff, I just love that analogy.
I do too. I love that. When you brought it up last episode, I was like, oh my God, it's so perfect. And I don't even know how this all ties in, and I'm sure they'll probably say it as I'm channeling them, but please be aware and recognize that all the elements are into play right now. Okay, so when you see just a normal everyday stone, know that that has an energetic field. When you are drawn to, when you see things, they're saying that is an energetic field calling out to you. If you are drawn to pick up that stone, pick it up, because that stone is holding a field for you that you need to be a piece and a part of. Sometimes you don't have to pick it up, you can just see it, and you've just opened up a whole nother field. And what I found very interesting was my husband and I were at a store this weekend, and those chimes that they have, or those things with like the stones and all that. I'll show you this one because I took a picture of it and I didn't know why. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. But notice what's on there. Normal everyday stones. Can you see them?
Yep.
Like I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe it. Because usually they're just all these really pretty things. And those are just like normal everyday stones hanging out there. Like, look at these two. They're just like brown, normal stones.
Yes. I love
Right?
it. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And even on the top. Now these ones were a little different. Look at the top two. Normal
Just like,
stones.
yeah.
Right. And then infused with all these other really little pretty stones. But I was like, oh my God, the elements are coming into play, and people are starting to recognize and realize that normal everyday stones hold something just as pretty, and sometimes more so. They're saying sometimes just those normal stones hold such an awareness and information. They're saying sometimes there's information that we had placed in those stones and just normal everyday rocks, right? That we need to connect in with. They're saying that is going to bring in a whole nother field, a whole nother awareness and awakening, because exactly what you said, Tracy, it's just layered in. We're going into these new layers of awareness and a new layer of awakening. And they said, so if you see a stone and you want to carry it with you, they said, carry it with you. That is holding a field for you. And I'm not exactly sure how this plays into everything we're saying, but clearly they needed to say that, and they want people to be aware. Start to recognize the beauty in everything, the beauty in the rocks and the stones and the waters and in the air. And, when it's really windy, like, oh my God, it's so windy. Start to recognize that's clearing and blowing all the old away. That's helping us to clear and bring in a whole new awareness into our world in general. The rain, oh my God, it's raining again. That water is so purifying, so cleansing. Before we got on, Tracy, just to talk, I had my glass of, I had this glass, and it was filled with water. And I remember thinking when I came down, I really should get something closed, or I should get another cup, because usually I've got a couple cups here that I'm drinking water. And I was like, oh, I'm probably going to spill this. I'm like, no, I'm not going to spill it. That's crazy. But I kept thinking, you're probably going to spill it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I put it down, and I don't even know what I did in the whole water. I spilled. And I was like, oh, okay. Clearly something over here needed to be cleansed and purified. I went and got my towel. I'm like, oh, okay. Doing it. The dog was looking like, what is happening here? But it was that piece of when I was saying, no, you're probably going to spill it. I was like, no. But what was I creating? Spilling it. And clearly like I said, I always look at people say, oh my God, I had this flood in my house. I'm like, wow, that was really, you must have really needed some purification in the house. They're like, really, Renee? Like, this is a horrible thing. I'm like, no, it's really a good thing. You got to look at it from that point. So even with the water, I'm always like, if I get caught in the rain, I'm not gonna, go running through. Sometimes I'll just like walk in the rain. People are looking like, what's wrong with her? Because I'm always pictured as this purifying water running over and through me, just being like, oh, just being purified on so many levels. So just start to reframe like these little things, and you'll be amazed at how different your life starts to be and what you recognize. But also be very aware of all the stuff that you're getting aggravated at, and just see if you can switch it. And if you can't, just say, you know what, I'm gonna disconnect this. I can't, so replace all that with the opposite, because the energy knows what you're saying. You don't have to, right? So it'll flip all of that energy into something else. And it's a matter of, what are you choosing? Are you choosing to stay in that anger or frustration or whatever it is? Or are you just going to be like Tracy, be like, okay, and just move along your day. All right, that's all I really got.
I'll wrap it up by, for whatever reason, I grabbed this before we started taping. It's just my daughter made it. It's a little, and if you rewound, you would notice it was been in my hand the whole time.
Yeah, because I saw the, yep.
Yeah, and why I grabbed it, but and we didn't talk about stones or any of this off air. And I'm like, isn't that fascinating? I grabbed this and I've been rubbing it the whole time. And I'm like, maybe I'll keep it in my pocket for the day. I could use a little, but just those small little things. And I love when we sync up. And I'm like,
Mhm.
of course she's going to say something like that. And I have this in my hand.
Right.
So it's just so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah. And, I just wanted to say that this isn't one of those talk shows that we're saying, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. We're opening up a conversation for you to have with yourself, to have with other people, do whatever, and to come up with what resonates with you. Does it resonate with, no, notice we're not, I mean, short of that last point, I did say a couple of things, but notice we don't usually say, okay, this is how you're going to change. This is what you're going to do. You're going to change your life by doing this or saying this and do. We don't do any of that here, because this energy that we're in is all about you recognizing what works for you and what feels right to do. Because we're not going to say anything where it's going to be this huge epiphany, like, oh, my whole life's going to change now because I'm going to say, or I'm going to do this. No, this energy is not. You've heard enough of that stuff. That's been out there talked about. You've taken course, you've done whatever, all the stuff that you needed to do. You have that information inside you. Open up and say, okay, what is going to allow me to give myself permission to step beyond everything that I've known? Give yourself permission to do that and come up with your own things that allow yourself to move forward. Tracy, I know you must have something on that conversation.
Well, I think that that's just, I mean, yeah, I think that we are just having conversation to share our stories, to
Mhm.
give examples. Not that you have to see it the way we see it or do what we do, but more of to get your mind open and thinking and ask your own questions. And well, how do I see that? And what do I do think about that? And I think that's the name of the game right now is inviting, invoking curiosity and awareness. And then if there is something that sounds cool that we say that we did, grab onto it and maybe it'll resonate, maybe it won't. I think that's just, it's the play element. Um, and that's what I found myself gravitating to interesting conversation. I love interesting conversation, not so much learn this modality or this is what's happening. Because the truth is, no one really knows what's coming down the pipe, and they can only know it from their perspective anyway.
Mhm.
So even, I say this about any expert in any field. That is your opinion with your perspective from your viewpoint, vantage point, from all your programming. Awesome. I'm not disinterested in listening. I'm fascinated by listening, but I always, okay, great. I'll put that into my formula and see if it sticks in at all or how it transforms to come into coherence with me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you're drawn to all of these things, you're drawn for a reason. They're drawn. It's to me, they're not, nobody's teaching us anything, right? They're helping us remember from
Yes.
within. And anytime like I bought, packages or the stuff, I'm always like, okay, whoever's giving them the information, come on, talk to me. Give us this, because I always think that even the stuff that I say, right, it can be brought to a whole new level. So whatever you're doing, if we're saying something that resonates with you, great, but bring it to the next level. Don't stop there. Don't be like, oh, okay, just, and you put that out there to your system, to the universe, whatever you want to say. Okay, how do I bring this to the next level? And interesting thing, Tracy, we had talked about it a little while ago. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or not, but what I usually will do is I will go into a consciousness. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into a consciousness far beyond anything I have known in this human field. And I'll sit there with that energy. And then this information comes, or these questions come, or these thoughts come, and I'll sit there with that. And it is amazing what comes in. Now, I will, for me, when I did that, I was doing that every day, sometimes a couple times a day. And I will say, honestly, I had a neck issue. It was like, it felt all brush burned, whatever. It was crazy. And you had said what I was telling you, Tracy, you had said what it was. Do you remember that?
Well, it was we were talking about how the light scrapes.
Oh, yeah.
You're bringing in codes and intelligence. It's sharp, it's bright, it is strong. So to add trust into the formula, trust is the lubricant. Remember we were talking about that? Light scrapes, trust is the lubricant.
Yeah.
Um,
And clearly I wasn't trusting, because I'm telling you, it was like a brush burn. I mean, I'm still have very, very little of it, but it really felt like a brush burn. I couldn't, I moved my neck, my shoulder was killing me. Like, it was crazy. And I stopped when Tracy, once you said that, I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Because I wasn't trusting in certain things, and I was resisting, right? So my physical form was responding. And when you said scrapes, I'm like, oh, makes sense. A little brush burn there. And I stopped doing that. And what was crazy was when I stopped doing it, it started to get better and better. And certainly I do like neck exercises and frozen shoulder exercise my sister was telling me about, and that's helping. But again, if you notice, and I'm just hearing this now, you notice I trusted my physical form, which is big for me, by the way. Okay, I trusted my physical form to know what to do, to how to move, and watching these things and staying with it. So that trust transpired to, okay, now we can release a little bit of this, instead of trusting the unknown, which was the scraping of the light. Does that make sense? I don't know. Like, I know what I'm hearing. I know what they're showing me. I don't know if I'm saying it right. So if you're having anything of these physical things, like, start to really ask yourself, what's going on, and can I move beyond this from a conscious field? Because they're saying what happens is we get stuck in that human field, and then we get stuck into, this is what I've been experiencing for so long. So you recognize that as your identity. And the identity is, oh, I've been suffering with this pain, or I've been having this, and you're buying into it. Because when you're in pain, how do you not buy into that, right? And that's certainly what I was doing. Like, I'd wake up, I'd go to bed, I couldn't get comfortable in my pillow. Like, it was just crazy, but I was buying into that more and more and more. And once we had that conversation, Tracy said that to me, there was that, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Okay, well, I'm going to stop going into the consciousness far beyond, because every time I did it, if I did it 3 times a day or 4 times a day, 5 times a day, every single time I said, all right, let's go into a consciousness far beyond any place I've been before, or however I would say it, like from the human form. So that morning I woke up, right, I said it once, and I was far beyond, and I said, yeah, it's far beyond that, far beyond that. Well, where the heck am I going? Like far beyond what this physical form is ready to experience out there. So of course it was that scraping, that whatever. So just be aware what you're doing, but they are saying anybody that's experiencing, that you've been experiencing any type of sickness, illness, anything like that, it's a frequency, it's a vibration, it's an energy field you're in. Ask to go beyond that consciousness and see how you feel, and bring your human consciousness to that field, because they're saying first go to that field, feel it, sit with it, recognize the field you're in, and invite your whole system there. And then when you're ready, go to the next field, because they're saying you have to step out of that field. that's the field you've been living in, that you recognize, that you've identified with. And if I'm not this, who am I? I don't know
And the
how we're
key
gonna.
piece is bring your body with you. I mean, I think the body is so relevant right now. And I know I've been talking about the body for like, I'm so with the body, the body, the body. And I think that we're ready. We're ready to this human vessel, this body is ready to go beyond where it's ever been. And sometimes I think all of us, like we take our minds and we go way out there, but like invite the body because it needs to do the progression of being able to go further. So I love that you brought that up because super relevant for me lately of reminding myself, okay, talk to the body. Are we ready? What are we doing? What are you telling me? What do we need? Let's go further. Are you ready to go further? What do you need?
Right, yeah. So true. All right. If you like this conversation, give us a like, give us some comments, just share it with somebody, whatever, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.